I'm Turk Strongman, current resident at Mind Voltage Institute. Thank you for selecting this video, our continuation of a narration of The Master Key by L.W. deLaurance. We are on chapter 19, lesson 17, Interest and its Meaning. Where did we leave off? Our chapter on observation. Last paragraph of which was, every student of this work should make observation a daily study. Every time you go out, look about you with the definite aim of seeing something. This definiteness of aim will itself help you to see better, for it will prepare your eyes to see things, just as when you are expecting the clock to strike your ears, are prepared to hear it strike. Before I continue, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, Mind Voltage Institute, please take a moment right now to do it. At the same time, activate the notification bell feature to be apprised of our new uploads. Just below your media player window, you see the thumb up icon. Please click on that to instantly and easily share the joy of this channel with others, and make a note of the donation by PayPal information that you find just below the thumb up icon in the video description area. Now, lesson 17. Interest and its meaning. To define interest is not easy. Like love or hate, it must be experienced before it can be understood. Kant defines it as a cause determining the will, but perhaps it would be better understood as a feeling which binds our attention to an object. Object in a wide sense here. Binds our attention to an object with the expectation that such feeling will bring pleasure in some form or advantage in some form. The ultimate aim of interest as affecting the individual is therefore satisfaction. When satisfaction is attained, interest tends to fade or die away. To stimulate it further, we must see ahead new forms of satisfaction. Interest may be said to manifest itself in two forms. First, sensory interest, and second, motor interest. The following will simplify these terms. Suppose you see some delicious fruit in a store window. As you look at it, you are pleased with its appearance, and you think how good it will taste, and thus gradually your interest in the fruit grows. This is sensory interest. That is, the appeal the fruit makes to the senses. At a further stage, you will feel that you must have some fruit, some of that fruit. And if you act on this feeling and go into the store and make a purchase, but the feeling which prompts you to go into the store is motor interest. In sensory interest, the object makes a visual, auditory, gustatory, olfactory, or tactile appeal. In motor interest, we feel a conation, a striving, a tendency toward the object. Motor interest, therefore, tends to manifest itself in action. How to create or to grow interest. If an object is uninteresting to you, you can, so to speak, grow interest in it by associating it with some interesting fact in your experience. A man past 50 who could not read was interested in electricity. He used to get his grandson to read him anything relating to electricity. One day the boy read something which greatly interested the old man. At first he could not believe what the boy had read. "Does it really say that in the paper?" he asked. The boy assured him and read the passage once more. "Well," said the old man, "if it says that about electricity, I'm going to learn to read." And he did learn to read. His interest was so keen that he persevered with all the difficulties of the task until he read the papers himself. Interest does not usually grow so quickly as did the old man in that case. The growth at first is often imperceptible. Take the case of a young man in a large business house. His work is uninteresting. How can he grow interest in it? The best way is to see an end to aim at. But even this is not always easy. The safest and simplest way is to look at his work from a development point of view. Thus, suppose a certain section of his work is always taking an hour to do. He can set himself to try to reduce this time to 3/4 and then to half an hour. As he applies the same method to other sections of his work, he attracts the attention of those above him. He has been careful also to see to the character of his work, that not only has it been done quickly, but neater and better in every way. The attention of his superiors turns to interest. He is promoted, and as more responsibility is put on him, his work gradually increases in interest. And as promotion after promotion follows his interest, strengthens. That becomes, until in many instances it becomes an absorbing passion. Another way to create interest in that which lacks interest for us is to make it show new aspects of itself, to prompt new questions. In a word, to change. Try to attend steadfastly to a dot on the paper or on the wall. Either your vision becomes blurred or your eye wanders away to something else. But if you ask yourself questions about the dot, how big is it? How far away? What shape? What shade, color, etc. You can keep your mind on it for a comparatively long time. The rule, therefore, for creating interest in an uninteresting thing is to associate it with something in which you already have interest. Students who wish to create interest in any special study, as in a science, for instance, should be on the lookout in books, magazines, or newspapers for anything referring to this science. Students who adopt this plan will find their interest growing steadily. New points of view will gradually widen the field of knowledge. Possibilities will be seen hitherto undreamt of. That which seemed a useless study will show utility in many forms. A psychologist was once trying an experiment in observation with two children with who I will call A and B, and none of the objects on the table, one of them. One of the objects on the table was a locket belonging to the child B. It was noticed that whenever this object was removed, the child instantly detected its absence. Her interest in its ownership was, of course, the reason. Students of this work should have no difficulty in growing interest in anything, for they can always look upon it as an exercise tending to increase their powers of concentration. Let me repeat that. It's very useful. Students of this work should have no difficulty in growing interest in anything, for they can always look upon it as an exercise tending to increase their powers of concentration. There's at least that. Note that the fundamental rule for creating interest in anything is to give it repeated attention. According to your attention will be your interest, and conversely it may be said, according to your interest will be your attention. According to your attention will be your interest. And conversely, it may be said, according to your interest will be your attention. Fatigue. Every psychological student should know something about fatigue and its manifestations, for ignorance of the subject is responsible for many foolish and hurtful actions. When the body is fatigued, the supply of blood to the brain is very small, hence attention is almost an impossibility. Even the slightest act of attention is wearisome, and one is inclined to be cross and irritable. When the brain is fatigued, it is an act of folly to indulge in violent bodily exercise. For this is still further fatigue the brain. Walking is the best exercise, for it is automatic and makes very little demand on the brain. Students should never attempt to study after violent exercise. Slight exercise before studying is often beneficial, but violent exercise is harmful. The student is cautioned as to how he regards the theory that the body has reserves of energy. It has been proved experimentally that when the normal energy of a muscle is exhausted, it is injurious to stimulate it to further action. And not only does the further stimulus prove injurious, but the character of the extra work resulting from the stimulus is of little account. Again, when a muscle is fatigued, the effect of the extra stimulus is much more severe than if the muscle were engaged in a heavier task when in its normal state. It pays, therefore, to rest the muscle and take up the task again later. It is a common fallacy that change of intellectual work rests us. This is true only when our health is good and where there is a sense of relief and pleasure in the change. If the brain as a whole is fatigued, total rest is essential. Fatigue is lessened in any sphere by the working of the law of habit. That which at first was felt as a strain is lessened as systematic exercise is brought to bear upon it. Students on the eve of an examination often fatigue themselves by thinking too much of the ordeal they have to undergo. Psychologists term this excitability in a motor sphere. One sees it also in anyone who has to speak, sing, or play on an instrument before an audience. Such per-functioning or feeling should be dismissed at once and the mind turned into other channels. The student, speaker, or singer who cultivates the "I know I will do well" attitude will find this task much easier to accomplish. The best schoolmasters and teachers are those who know how to regulate and lessen fatigue of their pupils by turning their attention into new and less exhausting channels. Public speakers are adepts at this lessening of fatigue. As soon as they see the attention of their audience difficult to hold, they introduce a humorous story or a personal touch which relieves the strained attention of their hearers. Students should experiment and take note of the best intervals of repose between their studies and stick to these intervals. The intervals of effective rest vary with different individuals, but as a general rule, the interval between each subject study should be greater when one is tired, for then it takes longer to recuperate our energy. In normal situations, long intervals of repose are fatal to good and effective work. The brain seems to take longer to function after prolonged rests. Fatigue and fasting makes the senses more acute and the nervous system more excitable. Sometimes people who fast hail this acuteness as a sign of well-being, but in reality it's a warning that the organism is, for the time being, not in proper order for the prolongation of existence. Students should note the effect of fatigue on the memory. Sometimes the effect is so great that we cannot remember even the most familiar things which belong to our daily activities. Schoolmasters and teachers will have noticed that when students are tired, they make the most absurd mistakes in composition and in reading. It seems clear then that study of any kind should be put aside as soon as we feel tired or exhausted. If we persist, it will be found that our time has been practically wasted. That is the end of this lesson. The next will be Chapter 20, Lesson 18, Thought Control. What thought control can do for you. Control your thoughts and you control your world. The first paragraph being, Mr. Dixon had just finished his breakfast, which he thoroughly enjoyed. He takes up his newspaper for a quiet 15 minutes perusal. Suddenly he notes that a client has gone smash. In consequence, the satisfaction brought by his good breakfast vanishes, and he goes to business in an unhappy frame of mind. But the rest is for the next video. We'll see you there. That again will be L.W. deLaurance's The Master Key, Chapter 20, Lesson 18, Thought Control. What thought control can do for you. Subtitle, Control Your Thoughts and You Control Your World. I'm Turk Strongman, a current resident at Mind Voltage Institute. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Activate the notification bell feature to be apprised of our new uploads if you haven't already. Give the video a thumb up. You easily and instantly share and enjoy this channel with others if you haven't already. Make a note of the donation by PayPal information that's in the video description area if you haven't already. And donate. By all means. For God's sakes, if you haven't already. All donations will be greatly appreciated and wisely put to use. See you in the next one.